YouTube. My name is Chris, and you're watching this video either because you see me on Podnuts Live, you follow me on the Freedom Network, or you searched for CRTC on YouTube for some reason. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you guys about the CRTC ruling published yesterday. Now, according to the CRTC, internet is now considered a basic service in Canada. Previously, that only applied to the telephone services. Remember landlines? Yeah, they're still around. So what does this mean for us? I mean, it's just a bunch of rules that the CRTC made. So does that really matter for people like you and me? Well, here's a shocker for people who live in cities. There are places in Canada where you can't get high-speed internet. I mean, the farm that I lived on, we could only get dial-up. High-speed just wasn't available. This ruling means that internet providers will be required to make high-speed internet available to everyone in Canada. And by high speed, we mean 50 megabits per second down and 10 megabits per second upload without any download caps for every Canadian. Right now, 82% of our population already has that service. But that's not surprising since we all huddle together against the US border for warmth. The Canadian government will give $750 million in rebates to the internet companies to make this a reality. And they have 15 years to get it done. I mean, as some of you know, I own a computer repair company. So that just means that by 2031, I'll be removing a lot more viruses from computers. Think about it, though. Most of us take the internet for granted. It's always on our phones, it's on our laptops, it's on the subway, airplanes. But it just isn't the reality for a fifth of the country. Seriously, when you're done watching this, unplug your internet modem, turn off the data on your cell phone, and just see how long you go like that. I know I couldn't last very long. I do have a bit of a bias here. I mean, I do most of my work on the internet, so not having it would be a real problem for me. When I've lived out in the country, I could have worked from home if I had high-speed internet, and it would have been awesome. I mean, I wouldn't have had to worry about the weather, or whether or not the snows were plowed, or the fact that this nearest city was an hour away, so you were looking at 2 hours worth of driving time if you needed to work in the city. I'm not alone either. According to CBC, 3.6 million Canadians work from home. I mean, that number would shoot right up if we had a high-speed internet everywhere. I mean, kids wouldn't have to move away from home nearly as early when they live out in the country, especially with the way that rent mortgages are going with all the mortgage laws that's changed, which I'm not even going to get into this during this episode. All of that sounds great, but what's the downside? Well, the biggest downside, I'd say, is that companies in Canada tend to act like companies in the US. Even though there's a huge rebate that's going to be happening with this, and they're going to be adding 28% to their customer base. Any large expense that companies tend to wind up getting for anything is going to wind up being passed on to the consumer. Since the CRTC didn't specify anything about pricing for the services they will be required to offer, I'd guess that we're going to see an increase in our internet bills coming over the next few years to offset the cost of expanding the delivery network. Of course, there is the societal cost as well. I mean, remember, the more people we have on the internet, the more we're going to see about this kind of thing.
It all started really with a theory of how music affects human emotions. As if I was right about all this, the kind of a recipe, I should be able to write music effective for some other species.
Yeah.
And that one turned out to be effective. And so then we decided to write for something that people had more of, and cats. Cats were the first choice.
What do you think of the CRTC discussions? Leave a comment below. So next on the list is the Galaxy Note 7. Now, if you have been hiding under a rock for the last few weeks, then you might have missed that Samsung released a phone that catches fire and explodes. Not just a couple either. I mean, it's bad enough that Samsung has used their software to limit the phone's battery charge to 30%. And they're putting it out a mandatory recall. The US has banned these phones on airplanes because they're too dangerous, because they might explode, because you're basically bringing a bomb onto a plane. Apparently this type of thing is another reason to play a practical joke on the airlines, though. On Virgin America Flight 358, an airline attendant saw a Wi-Fi network on the plane that were already in the air called Samsung Galaxy Note 7 and demanded whoever had it to fess up and tell them where the phone is. When they didn't, they threatened to ground the plane, they diverted flights, and they threatened to search all of the bags on the plane until they found it. Now, eventually, the passenger did come clean, and it turned out that he didn't actually have a Galaxy Note 7. He just renamed the wireless network on his phone to Galaxy Note 7 as a prank. But that prank wound up canceling flights. The people that were supposed to be picked up by this plane at the airport wound up having their entire flight canceled, and all of their itineraries had to be changed and put on different planes because of this hoax. I mean, that seems a little bit too far to go for a prank, but I kind of see their concern if they're afraid of something exploding. So that's an issue. I mean, at this point, it's pretty ridiculous that we even have people carrying these phones around. Oh, sir, I'm sorry it's such an inconvenience. We'd really like to replace that bomb with a cell phone, if you don't mind. Anyway, that's how I see the world today. How badly do you think Samsung messed up with the Note 7? And should that passenger have diverted those flights? See any repercussions come back from that? Leave your comments below. Hit like if you liked the video today, and don't forget to subscribe.